Welcome to Martial Powers Tuesday. Give me a minute here to check my signal, go through my spiel, and then we'll dive into the heart of power. So give me a moment here. Let's see if this is coming through. It sounds like it's coming through A-OK. Fantastic. Let's see. Give me a second here to go through my spiel with y'all. Okay, great. My name is Theurgy. Hey, I create role-playing game supplement PDFs. I have been focusing my attention on 5th edition content for Dungeons & Dragons that I publish on the DMsGuild. There are links in the description down below to a slew of work I've already produced in the past. For 5th edition, all the work that I make is 100% free previews. So if you ever check into one of my books online, you can read the whole thing cover to cover. In fact, all the links below, if you click on them, if you're on a tablet or a laptop, it'll show you like that cover image. If you go into each individual book individually, you'll see the book cover on the left-hand side, and underneath it, there'll be a link that says full preview, and then if you're on a phone, like a mobile phone, there'll be an eye icon on the right-hand side of the screen across from the book cover. If you click on the eye or the full preview link, it'll throw open a PDF. It'll have the entire book there. Between the links down below, there's probably about 150 illustrations that I produced for those works. If you're an art enthusiast, be welcome to check them out. If you're a D&D enthusiast, definitely check them out because it gives you a good idea of the kind of flavor and mechanical ideas that I produce. As a DM that runs level 1 to 20 campaigns regularly, these are all things that I as a DM would love to see available in games for players to use to open up more options and to have more mechanics to back up the narrative and flavor that often arise in role-playing games, especially in Dungeons & Dragons, which lacks a lot of those mechanical details. We flesh out those details so that you can have some crunch to back up the kind of flavor that you want in your game. And if the kind of flavor, like Magic the Gathering, Ravnica, Strixhaven, Theros, if you're into that sort of stuff, or if you're into nobodies making horrible pacts with incredible powers, there's a lot of content that I produce there for you as well. So check it out. If you like the stuff, please consider making a purchase to support the channel. I've just posted that I'm live on Twitter, so if you want to get updates in the future, you can follow me live at Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Theurgy, Filkearney. And the other best way to support the channel would be to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon here on YouTube so that the algorithms know that they should continue promoting and pushing me up the funnel for more folks to check out. So what are we doing today? We are going to expand on martial powers. So what we have done to date, and if you aren't familiar with all the details, there's 55 other episodes in the Martial Powers playlist literally over the past year that we've been fleshing out these mechanics. I've been playtesting with what's now an 18th level team, Ranger, Rogue, and a Wild Shaping Druid. We're at 18th level now in the campaign, and every time we gain levels, I'm peppering in new powers for them to use and for us to sink our teeth into and to switch up. So if you can make things work at the high level, then you can downgrade powers and scale back things to make them work at lower levels. We started playtesting with this stuff at around, I'd say, level 12 in the campaign last year, and we've continued to evolve with it, and you've seen system updates since the beginning of this campaign feed up till today. So the way that this has been built, it is an alternate magic system, very akin to spellcasting in Dungeons & Dragons. It's probably most similar to half casting. So, hey, hold on real quick. Let me get this thing on screen so I can see all the bits. Sounds interesting. Love fighters. I love fighters too. So I'm a huge mana enthusiast. If in the description down below, there's the color mana spell point variant rules that I have. And there's a slew of books in there. The Universal Spell Points and High Magic book, you can read 100% for free. But it kind of sets up the scaffolding. Now, all the other stuff for like color mana and stuff, that's just a magic paradigm. The Elemental Key Monk has elemental magic, which uses air, earth, fire, and water mana. That if you choose air and fire as your elements, then you would be dividing your mana pool between air and fire mana to cast or empower air and fire techniques, spells, disciplines, whatever. In the color magic paradigm, there's white, blue, black, red, green from Magic the Gathering. So if you're into Ravnica, Strixhaven, or Theros, if you were to, like, say, play in a Ravnica campaign and you wanted to be a Boros Legion character, then you would have white and red mana that you would be able to, these books divide up all 500 some odd spells into white, blue, black, red, and green magic. So a Boros character has all their spells as either white, red, or both white and red spells that you would then use your mana to power. If I want to lean into white magic, then I'm going to take a bunch of white spells, or I'm going to research other colored spells to become white so I can add them to my book. If I want to focus on red, same thing, just red. If I want to have them on both, I can do double research to make sure it's available in both colors. Mix and match. You can gain access to all the spells that are in the game, but they're not automatically a specific color, so you can recalibrate them. But those are just different magic paradigms. You can create any kind of magic paradigm that you want to add flavor to your game, but universal spell points or universal spells, spell slots, key, all that stuff, sorcery points, it's all universal magic that doesn't have a magic paradigm associated with it. But this idea of magic paradigms is what created the spell point system that we're using in the first place as a means of being able to calibrate different types of paradigms to work within the D&D spellcasting system. Notes, reason I don't do magic burns out my brain, too much to remember. Very fair. There's still stuff here for you to enjoy. So, like, for example, this is a basically it takes the core premise behind this is take the Battle Master fighter, and instead of giving him superiority dice, you give him a small mana pool. And anytime that you want to use a maneuver, you burn a point of mana to use that maneuver. And then depending on what level you are, you gain a scaling power die. So if something would require a die roll to determine how effective that power is, then depending on what level you are, 1st, 9th, or 17th level, it's going to be either a D6, D8, or D10, depending on what you're doing. And then we have about 140 different powers that we have listed out so far that has been undergoing ongoing evolution as the playtesting has evolved over the past years. So, like, exploits, there's exploits, maneuvers, reactions, strikes, and sustained powers. So exploits modify die rolls, like adding to a skill check, initiative roll. It alters how you move, like gives you flight, or you can pass through people's space without drawing attacks of opportunity. Different things like that. Maneuvers are probably the closest thing to spells that are in the game, but they do fun stuff like you gain a bonus attack, or like coordinated attack is pretty much a Battle Master maneuver. For 1 point, you can empower a target ally within 30 feet of you to use their reaction to make an attack. You roll 1 power die per mana channeled, adding the highest results to the ally's attack against a target you and an ally can both see. So, like, at first level, if you were to use this, then you'd be able to add a d6 to your friend's attack roll that you then you just commanded to attack that creature that you can both see, and they can use their reaction. So it's basically that's a really good example of, like, converting a maneuver into a martial power. And then, like, strikes replace smites. So there's 22 different strike powers. Like, goading strike is a great tanking ability. Your weapon damage increases by 1, so you roll your normal damage, and then if you burn mana, you add a number of, like, at first level, a number of d6s equal to the total amount of mana that you're burning. And then the creature has disadvantage to attack anything that isn't you. And the effect ends if it can hit you, or until it makes a successful saving throw at the end of its turn, an intelligence saving throw to convince itself it doesn't actually have to attack you. It gains reason over its attacks again. But then as you scale up in levels, you get more and more powerful things, like a banishing strike. It costs 4 mana, So you would deal 4 power dice worth of damage, and at this level, you'd be rolling d10s. So you burn the 4 mana, you can throw 4d10, add it to the damage of your die roll. It would double if you crit, just like a smite would. And if you, when you hit, when you burn the mana when you hit. So you hit, you burn the mana, you deal the extra damage, and the creature must make a charisma saving throw or be banished and incapacitated. The creature can attempt the creature can attempt to end this effect at the end of its turn by succeeding a charisma saving throw. I'm going to have to reword that because it is incapacitated. So the creature makes, there it is. The creature makes another save at the end of each of its turns. Ending the effect if successful. That's it for, that's not the official 5e natural language that we would use, but it gets the gist across. If you're incapacitated, you can't choose to do anything. But while you're incapacitated and banished, you have the ability to recover from this by succeeding a saving throw. It's the only thing you can do, you're incapacitated. So it's a good way of keeping people out of your face. But these are all different powers that you could learn. Like sustained powers are auras that are basically ongoing buff effects. Like a Cliff Runner is a 1 mana buff. While you're maintaining concentration on this, you gain a climb speed equal to your walking speed, and you can climb this way without using your hands. So basically you become a Cliff Runner. You can run along cliffs. It costs you 1 mana to do that, and it remains active while you maintain concentration until you end the effect or your concentration is disrupted, which we discuss in detail in the mechanics of channeling powers up here. Range of effects, duration, sustained powers. There's a link to my Patreon down below, and you can gain access to this read-only document through my Patreon. You don't have to be a member to have access. But you can't. It's also just read-only, so it's look-only right now. But it's also ready to go for up to 20th level play. So if you want to experiment with this, you can. So getting back on point. You have like, say, for example, the hybrid classes, which are Monk, Paladin, and Ranger. They gain 2 mana per level, up to 40 at 20th level. Quick notes, according to 5th edition, 5.0 5th edition, a half-caster has 43 spell slots worth of spells. So we trimmed in like a wizard has 89 spell levels worth of spells in their list of how many spell slots you have. If you add them all up, a full caster has 89. Half caster has I think 41, and the third caster like Eldritch Knight and Arcane Trickster, they have 23. So we cut down the power a little bit to even out the curve to make it really easy math for you to be able to gain progression. The martial classes of Barbarian, Fighter, and Rogue use martial points up to 20 at 20th level, and the half casters, instead of gaining their spell slots, they would gain the hybrid point progression up to 40 points, and the Paladin and Ranger are free to choose any amount of spells or martial powers. They can completely mix between the two. So over this development, when we built this out, we originally left Barbarians, Fighters, and Rogues alone with all their subclasses. If you don't want to use martial powers, obviously you don't have to. It's a completely clip-on system that sits on top of the 5e mechanics. But so we created subclasses for the Barbarian, the Fighter, and the Rogue to give them something to kit into to make better use of martial powers. But like if you wanted to be an assassin rogue, for instance, you would still be an assassin rogue. You don't have to use this. Then as we went along, we realized, well, you could play a normal subclass, but still have this as a tack-on system, because martials are so far behind the curve in comparison to full casters, giving them an optional system that lets them to kind of kit out their own advantages, their own action sequences, their own narrative inside of the game with additional mechanics. Then we opted for, well, if anyone wants just to use this, you can just clip it on as something additional that you can use. And now we're at the point where we're like, well, if we're going to do that, why not just offer this as a base clip-on system from first level that any class, that any of these martial classes can use. Spellcasters, like full casters, don't get access to this stuff. So it is combat, it is weapon combat focused classes only. And the Warlock as written currently, like if you take Pact of the Blade, you could choose to pick up different smite or strike powers as an invocation. So burn an invocation, learn a strike. And then you could use the same striking system that we have in here with whichever invocation you burn. We're probably going to expand that, and obviously once 1D&D comes out, if they truly recalibrate the Warlock to be a long rest half caster, then it will just instead use the hybrid point system that we have for the paladins, monks, and rangers already. We just have to update the wording, and we don't know what they're doing with the monk yet. We don't know if they're going to keep them on short rest key, or if they're going to remove key altogether and just put them on a PB resource system, or if they're also going to attempt converting them to the half casting progression with up to 40 key at half level. I would love to see that the most, honestly. I would prefer to see half casting on the monk, because it would help stabilize the entire mana system for all classes across the board if they were to do that. But we'll see what they end up doing in, I guess, next year at some point. But yeah, so for now we're building this thing. This will probably be published by this time next year. We have the Spelljammer book that we're working on, and we have the Eberron adventure that we're also working on that are in edits right now. And the Spelljamming book is in post-edit page layout that we stream in the mornings every day. And we do Eberron at night on Mondays and Thursdays. So you can like and subscribe to check out that stuff in the future as well if you want. Tuesday afternoons like this is Martial Powers. I need to set a clock to make sure I stay on course, because I am at lunch and I need to stop in an hour. So we have an hour, maybe a little less. I've been going for, actually I only have about 40 minutes right now. I have about an hour a week to do this. That's all the time I allocate to it. Once Spelljammer is done, then Eberron moves forward on the plate, and we work on Eberron 5 days a week in the morning, and then we'll be doing Martial Powers on Monday and Thursday nights to push this a little bit faster once Spelljammer is done. So we constantly are moving things forward to knock those off and get them published, and we do that. The next book moves forward in slot, and we keep loading new products in after the last one, so we can keep moving things forward. When this is done, we'll probably move into the Dragonlance mass combat system as our Tuesday lunch stream. Once this gets advanced to Monday, Thursday night production. So everything's coming along. It's just, I'm a one-man army, so it takes a while to build stuff. So back on point. We have the way that Monk, Ranger, and Paladin work is that we have the core mechanics that alter the spell casting that they use to convert to the channeling system. And then each class, each subclass, the traditions for monks, blah, 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 Rangers, Paladins, each of their subclasses still exist, except that they get potentially, like the Rangers subclasses get modified. Each of their classes are modified by these powers. We have listed out here the basic modifications that Beastmaster gets, the Drake Warden gets, the Fey Wanderer, the Gloomstalker. Some of their features don't need to change at all. Some of them do, and it's all based off of this channel scaling system that we've developed. So what we had previous to this, so like if you take a Ranger, you would then pick your subclass, and then you can decide if you want to use channeling powers or just stick with spellcasting. If you go with channeling, you could pick up spells and powers and use our channeling cost of 1 point of mana per spell level or per channel level up to 5. Because you're a half caster, you can get up to 5th at 17th level. So the mana system that we have works along those same lines. Max is 5th at 17th level. So all these classes, well, we should be seeing the Ranger having a spell list for all subclasses, and the Paladin has a spell list for all oaths. So basically they're gaining a bonus 10 spells that they always know. So we are now going to develop those lists of powers. There's 144 different powers that are listed in the book. So we are going to get down into it here. Yeah, we have 140 powers listed out here. So each subclass of the fighter, rogue, and barbarian is going to get a specialized subclass list for whichever path of barbarian, archetype of rogue, or archetype of fighter that you choose. So we are now going to go through that same process of converting all of the subclasses. We converted all the subclasses here for the monk. We're now going to convert all of the subclasses for barbarian, fighter, and rogue into the martial power paradigm, and then build a unique list of 10 powers that they automatically learn: 2 first rank, 2 second rank, 2 third rank, 2 fourth rank. Powers don't go past 4th rank. They are limited in that sense. So 5th rank is basically pick 2. So, and then we had originally developed these subclasses for the rogue, the fighter, and the barbarian, that specifically all of their subclass features are designed to manipulate how the channeling system works, whether like making things like use them for free, or like how to gain more mana back, or like how to combine different powers together to be able to get unique results as a result of the subclasses that the other barbarian, rogue, and fighter subclasses don't have access to. Because like if I'm going to play, I don't know, an arcane archer. Arcane Archer already has a ton of cool stuff in there, but we also ganked a bunch of Arcane Archer powers, class options to create various powers. So when we go through this process of rebuilding the Arcane Archer, all those trick shots and stuff that they get, those are going to end up being powers that they get for free on top of the stack of powers that they'll be able to get from just the core power progression. So you get up to 16 powers known up through 20th level. But on top of that, there's going to be the subclass list of specialized powers that you get that we're going to build here for each subclass. First things first, what will need to be done in the book is to decouple the channeling and fury mechanics from the barbarian Path of Raging Fury specifically, and just deconstruct it down to a core channel mechanic that can be clipped onto any of these classes at first level. And then that would then remove the language about like channeling and fury. Those would be removed. These 3 things, the martial powers, channeling, and fury, that would be removed from the Path of Rage and Fury description, and instead would start with the channeling rage feature, which would be when you choose the Path of Raging Fury at 3rd level, rage gains additional benefits, and then while raging, you cannot maintain concentration, which you could never do anyway. So if you're channeling sustained power while raging, it automatically locks, which is something that we would have to establish at 1st level. And then you can choose to tap or lock sustained powers as normal when you're not raging. So that becomes kind of like a non-power. That becomes just the baseline 1st level, something that we have to mention if a barbarian is using the channeling system. But at 14, the perk that you would gain, then this 14th level feature would then be pushed down to the destructive rage section, or the destructive purge system. And then so furious power at 3rd level, while raging, you add your rage bonus to the DC of any power that requires a saving throw, like that banishing smite, that banishing strike, that 4 mana channel power. If as a barbarian you were to learn that, you would add your rage bonus to the DC for the creature, making its charisma saving throws to end its banishment and incapacitation. So there's that. So what we have to do is decouple that, but then we also need to go through and look at all of the barbarian subclasses. This would be like the channeling subclass option that we feature in this book. But then there's also all of the subclasses that exist in D&D Beyond. So let's go to D&D Beyond, and we'll go to Game Rules, Barbarian. So here's the different paths that we have, right? The Ancestral Guardian, Battle Rager, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 paths here that we can choose from. I don't think I have any critical role stuff in here. So there's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's the 8 paths here for barbarian, and each one of these paths is going to get a subclass power list. So 2 at first, 3rd level you gain 2 first rank powers that are specific to Ancestral Guardian or specific to Battle Rager or the Beast or whatever. You will key through what those powers are that you gain, and depending on what the language is for each class, we'll then be able to make alterations to like the path of Ancestral Guardian. This is probably a good place for us to start today. So let's make this our official first bid that we will work on. Drop down to here. And if I'm kind of moving at a blur, that's okay. There's 55 sessions before this one that walk through all of this stuff in intimate detail. In the last, I think 7 sessions, we've been building out alternate, like we've been building sample characters as well as how the DM can use powers to make unique monsters and different types of challenges. So you can check all that stuff out. So subclasses, and we'll go with Ancestral Guardians power list. Yeah, Ancestral Guardian. So we have the power list, 1st rank, 2nd rank, 3rd rank, 4th rank, 5th rank. Pick 2. Since none of the powers that we have here, so when we originally built this, we were looking at having an alternate option for Eldritch Knights and Arcane Tricksters, which only went to 4th level. And even still, now, if you wanted to play an Eldritch Knight, you can do so as written out of the player's handbook, but instead, you could opt into any of these powers instead of spells learned. So you have the Wizard spell list of Abjuration and Evocation that an Eldritch Knight could choose from normally. But you also get this stack of 140 additional powers that the Eldritch Knight will be able to pick between. And I honestly recommend checking out Tap on Tap Burn Knights and Tricksters, which is about specifically Eldritch Knights and Arcane Tricksters. Again, that's 100% free for you to look at. It's in the Spell Mana Spell Point bundle that we have in the description down here. So you can check out the 5 color mana spell point variant rules here, and then you can go down here to here's the elemental key book for the elemental magic for the Way of the 4 Elements monk. But here's our Knights and Tricksters, and obviously it's got a great review record to it. God, 8 5-star reviews so far. That's freaking thank you, folks. That's awesome. We're actually approaching gold on this, so I'm hoping that comes through before D&D ends. But it's a 20-page document over here, 21 pages, and here we have it. We don't have the cover included, so it's just 20 pages. But it's all the entire book is here for you to look at. We have the color spells broken down by color, and there's here's the mana progression. This is going to go through an update when 1D&D comes out. We're going to revise all of these books. We're going to revise all of them to be 1D&D compliant. But these will also still be in the zip file that you get with all the color mana tokens and stuff as well, so it will remain relevant for you. Different sources of magic that you can choose with alternate casting stats. We have variant class features for the Knight and the Trickster. And then we have how the different guilds make use of color magic and what benefits they get from that. And then we have sample adversaries, Knights and Tricksters, NPCs that are using this, and how to have a quick gain system to be able to build challenges at any level. But again, these are all free. I totally recommend that you check out Knights and Tricksters to see how this whole project began. And enough of advertising there, back into the gist of it. So we'll have the power list up front, and then we'll have features. And I'm not going to bother with formatting right now, but let's look at the features that you get. Ancestral Protectors, Spirit Shield. And Vengeful Ancestors. Okay, so the way that this system works is when we look at a class feature, we basically decide, do we need to, like, does anything in the martial powers mechanics, would these class features benefit from the changes that we offer in the channeling variant class features? If the class feature would remain unchanged, like in everything else, we just mark this class feature isn't changed, so it remains as expected. If we're going to make a change to it, it is going to hopefully improve the ability, but at worst, it's going to make it use the same mechanics and language that we have inside the channeling, inside this channeling book, Martial Powers. So we're going to look at each of the individual features, ancestral protectors. Like I think Consult the Spirits is probably going to be like an easy example. At 10th level, you gain the ability to consult with ancestral spirits, and when you do so, you can cast the augury or clairvoyant spell without using a spell slot or material components. Rather than creating a spherical sensor, this uses a use of a clairvoyance invisibly summoning one of your ancestral spirits to the chosen location. And wisdom is your spell casting ability for these spells. After you cast either spell in this way, you can't use this feature again until you finish a short or long rest. So, Consult the Spirits would be how exactly do we have that language? Let's go down. No changes. Very basic there, Kearney. Let's see. Actually, there are changes. Let's look at this. After you cast either spell this way, you can't use this feature again. When you use after you cast either spell in this way. God, that's mean. After you cast either spell this way, you can't use this feature again until you finish a short or long rest, or you can spend alternatively, you can spend Fury. It's 10th level. Free. You can spend Fury to, alternatively, you can spend Fury. That would be augury and clairvoyance. Let me double check. Let me check. Let's see. I think clairvoyance is 3rd level. This list is provided in the spell point variant rule bundle. Clairvoyance is 3rd level. There you go. Clairvoyance equals 3, and augury, I'm pretty sure is 1st level. Let's just make sure. Augury is 2nd. Thank you. There. So like there you go. This is something since barbarians normally don't have a power source, they wouldn't normally have this option. But since the channeling system is giving them a baseline power source that they can make use of, much like the Drake Warden, when you use a breath weapon as a ranger for your dragon, you can't use it again until you finish a short rest, unless you spend a spell slot, for instance, like a 3rd level spell slot or above, to recharge the breath weapon. So since the Ancestral Guardian was created before that recharge language existed, and the barbarian doesn't normally have a spell point resource to use, it doesn't make sense to include it. But since we do and we can, we now will. So let's see how else we can deconstruct a barbarian like this, and then we'll pick a power list. So let's first look at Ancestral Protectors to see if there's any changes that we need to make to it using the martial power system. So starting when you choose this path at 3rd level, Spectral Warriors appear when you enter your rage. While you're raging, the first creature you hit with an attack on this turn becomes the target of the warriors, which hinder its attacks. Until the start of your next turn, that target has disadvantage on any attack roll that isn't against you, and when the target hits a creature other than you with an attack, that creature has resistance to the damage dealt by the attack. The effects of the target ends early if your rage ends. No need to change that. I think that's great as is. Spirit Shield, beginning at 6th level. Let's go with... And since 1D&D is standardizing all subclass progressions, we'll be able to go through and reconstruct this to have that consistency, which I am actually looking forward to quite a bit. So no changes to Ancestral Protector. Spirit Shield. So beginning at 6th level. Beginning at 6th level, the Guardian Spirits that aid you can provide supernatural protection for those you defend. If you are raging and another creature you can see within 30 feet of you takes damage, you can use your reaction to reduce that damage by, it says here, 2d6 at 6th level. You have a max channel limit of 2. When you reach certain levels in this class, you can reduce the damage by more, 3d6 at 10th and 4d6 at 14th level. So we're going to reconstruct that. I write this out instead of copy pasting it because it makes me learn the system better. A view takes damage. The more I type out the actual natural language that Wizards uses for these classes, the more my brain and body get used to typing the language that Wizards uses in the game. So it's rote memory. It works. I recommend it to anybody that's in the design space. Get used to writing this stuff out yourself. You can use your reaction to reduce that damage by how do I want to word this? Now we're at the end of the line, so it would be by 2d6. Let's see how they finish it out. When you reach certain levels, in this class, you can reduce the damage by more, period. By 3d6 at 11th. And by 4d6 by 14th. At 14th level. There, that would be the power. That would be the power progression that we would use. It's also significantly more. Yeah, that's pretty fucking sick. Love it. So again, at 6th level, the guardian spirits that you aid can provide supernatural protection to those you defend. If you are raging and another creature you can see within 30 feet of you takes damage, you can use your reaction to reduce that damage by the amount listed below. 6th level, 2d6. 11th level, 3d8. 14th level, 4d8. 18th level, 5d10. You gain second rank powers at 5th level. You gain third rank powers at 9th level, so that should actually be 10. Uh, 14th level, that's one level later, then you would gain access to 4th rank powers, which is 48. And then at 17th level, you gain access to 5th rank powers. So at 18th level, then it becomes 5d10. And that is curving with the power paradigm here. Second, at 5th level, you have second rank power, which means 2d6 most. 6th level, you gain access to it. 9th level, 3rd rank, d8s, 3d8. At 10th level, you get access to that defense. 13th level, 4d8. So at 14th level, 4d8. 17th level, you gain access to 5th rank, d10s, 5d10. So at 18th level, it would be 5d10. By God, that's a shitload of value. Boom! Wow. Powerful. I'm into it though. I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. If you want to make if you want to make your marshals in league with full casters, up their numbers. Like that's the minimum you can do. Up their math. Super easy. Vengeful Ancestors is the only revision that we need to make. And then we can pick out our power list. Vengeful Ancestors. At 14th level, your ancestral spirits grow powerful enough to retaliate. When you use your spirit shield to reduce the damage of an attack, the attacker takes an amount of force damage equal to the damage that your spirit shield prevents. Whew, that's saucy. I'm good with it. No changes. Bam. There's that. So let's change our font. Subclasses. Barbarian subclasses gain the subclasses remain unchanged from their source content with the following considerations. Let's up this to what? 15? What is this? 18? It's 15. 12. 12. 12. 12. Cool. Now we get to pick a list of power paradigms. So let's kick on down to our power list. Force damage, huh? Okay. So one of the things that you can learn, instead of learning a power, you can choose a damage type. If you're using the elemental paradigm, here's how they break down. First level basic damage, and then advanced damage at 5th. And then if you're using the 5-color magic paradigm, here's your basic damage, and here's your advanced damage. Overall damage types is basic versus advanced. Acid, cold, fire, lightning, poison are basic damage types, and then the advanced damage types: force, necrotic, psychic, radiant, and thunder. So let's see. And then the other thing that you can do with powers, instead of learning powers and using your mana, you can instead learn additional feats. So that's pretty cool. So when we're building out the power list, we can grant additional feats. We can grant a damage. We can grant a damage type. We can grant feats, and we can grant powers. So, like at first level, which you have very little mana at 3rd level when you take this class, right? So this would actually be 3rd level. Ninth level, 13th level, so we're going to skip any kind of damage type at 1st level. However, we could consider any number of these things. Like you can pick a fighting style, fighting initiative, great weapon master, keen mind, linguist, mounted combat piercer, polearm master, revenant blade, savage attack. Savage attack isn't a bad idea. Skilled grants you skills, tavern brawler, telepathic, telekinetic. What would be good feats, chef? Maybe let's remind ourselves what the alert class feature does. +5 bonus to initiative. Jesus. You can't be surprised while you're conscious. Other creatures don't gain advantage on attack rolls against you as a result of being unseen by you. That is a freaking great alert feat. That is a great feat to pick up, man. So feat, a power type. Let's go to... That's actually a pretty good format to follow. Gain a feat at 3rd level plus another power. At 5th level, gain a damage type plus another power. And then at 9th and 13th level, gain 2 powers of your choice. We'll pick 2 powers of each of those levels to learn. And then at 18th level, you just get to pick an extra 2. I'm good with that. Let's see. Let's go back into our list. Let's see. First rank. Maybe there's. Let's see. There could be. We could pick anything. But let's see. Sustained. You don't have to maintain concentration if you lock the power, and if you lock a power, you cut off however much mana from your power supplies. So, like if I lock a first rank sustained power, if I'm only first rank channeling limit. If I lock that one rank, I don't have any mana left. I can't use any mana at all until I unlock that power by dismissing it and then burning the mana that I was locking to maintain the power. So at early levels, when you don't have a lot of mana, you can just buy a lot of feats and damage types. So you don't have to worry about your mana pool at all. Similarly, Dennis, if you aren't interested in learning powers and spending mana for things like spells, if you aren't into that, you can instead take your full 16 ranks that you learn, and you could instead just where am I at here? And hey, newcomer, howdy. Hold on, I'll get to you in a second. Let's go back up to the front of our list. Yeah, if you don't want to learn any powers and you just want to be like resourceless, then by the time you're 20th level, you gain 16 powers that you could learn additional feats, fighting styles, or damage types that you can acquire that we were just looking at. So, but we're going to look at some sustained powers here in a second. Hey, Alan, howdy, man. I think alert fits well with... Yeah, I think that's I'm really looking forward. Like, I am very pleased at how slowly I'm brewing the system, because it allows me the opportunity to come out with realizations like this before the book publishes, instead of afterwards going, oh man, if I hadn't rushed this thing, I could have thought about this subclass, the subclass list of powers that would automatically come brewed in to anything that you have. I just think this is going to just really breathe flavor into the class more. In any subclass that you pick. I'm really looking forward to doing all of these. And honestly, it's probably going to be another 4 months before Spelljammer and Eberron are off of my plate. And we push this forward to second and first dibs on my stream time. So we'll have, this is good content for us to do. If you go back to, I think like around episode 20 of the power of the Martial Power playlist that we have here on YouTube. I think that's when I started doing all of this for the Ranger, the Paladin, and the Monk. But now we're just realizing that we could do this. I don't know. I didn't realize I could just do this from the get-go. I think I was just kind of putting myself inside of a 5e box. But now that 5.5 is kind of making us shake up our idea about what the core assumptions about the game system are, I feel, I guess, emboldened that I can just start off the bat that if you want to use martial powers, it's available to all 6 of these classes at level 1. And here's how you can alter everything involved with your classes to use it. So that's the process that we're going through. And I think it's a great, I don't want to break my arm patting myself on the back, but I'm glad I realized this now instead of later. So it's really fun building kits. So getting back into it, let's look at, okay, so the Ancestral Guardian, I lean towards a sustained power, because it doesn't, if you decide to lock it, it won't cost you any more mana until you decide to dismiss it and replace it with something else. but you don't have a lot. Like these marshals don't have a lot of mana at the beginning. Like a barbarian by 3rd level would only have 6 mana per day. That's not a lot of mana, but it would only cost 1 mana to permanently lock one of these sustained powers until you choose to replace it with something else, which would mean that you would be limited to only the damage types you choose and the feats that you learn, and you wouldn't be able to use any other mana in your pool because it's all been locked down. So I like defaulting to feats, damage types, and sustained powers until you get to 5th level and gain access to 2nd rank. Then you can start really fleshing out different powers that you have. Because every time you gain a level, even though these things are learned, not prepared, but learned, you can switch out all of them every level. So you can completely transform your kit every single level to update with what the rest of your party can do so you can remain viable and, more importantly, useful and synergistic with what your team is evolving into. So by building this baseline subclass list of 8 some odd default powers, that kind of keeps you on a baseline. This is what my character is about. And these are things I'll always have access to, but there's other 16 things that I have I can swap out freely. That's the idea behind it. So let's see. If we're talking Ancestral Guardians, their elemental resistance might be a contender, which is when you channel this power, choose a type of damage: acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder, and you gain resistance to that chosen type of damage and gain advantage on saving throws to reduce the damage taken of the choice damage type. You can channel this power more than once simultaneously, choosing a different type of damage with each channel. Like the Storm Herald definitely would be able to have access to like elemental resistance, and then would opt probably between lightning and thunder damage, for instance. Those are, and like the damage type would be like lightning at first, at 3rd level, and then like thunder damage at 6. Like those are real obvious low-hanging fruit to add flavor to the Storm Herald. So I'm not sure. And like the Path of the Beast, obviously giving them lycanthropy at 3rd level would make a ton of sense. So technically I'm supposed to be done here. Nope. Yeah, I'm supposed to be done, but I'm going to push on because I'm liking this space and I'm making my time. I'm reclaiming my time. So I'm going to give myself another 20 minutes and get this thing resolved. And we get it resolved sooner, I'll just cut the stream then. But yeah, Alan, I'm glad you're liking it, man. I do this every Tuesday. I do artwork in the mornings, Monday through Friday, for 2 hours. And then on Mondays and Thursday nights, I do cartography for my Eberron adventure. So I got a lot going on. If you're into this kind of stuff, I talk about this crap all the time. So you'd be a most welcome addition, and I'd love to have you. So consider liking, subscribing, blah, blah, blah. Trap Springer. While this power is sustained, gain advantage on any intelligence, investigation, and wisdom perception checks to notice traps. You automatically understand. This would be a great 3rd level pick for the Master Thief subclass for the Rogue, for instance. It's like this would be like a super obvious sustained power to give to them at 3rd level. But I don't think it fits. I don't think it fits the Barbarian, the Ancestral Guardian anyway. You can add proficiency bonus when you make an ability check that use the perception and insight skills. Yeah, it'd be like an investigator. I don't think that fits the Barbarian. You can use a bonus action to dash, disengage, and dodge. I mean, Rogue stance is always good. There's not much of ranged going on with the Ancestral Guardian. Power armor and power shield aren't bad. Your armor class is 11 plus your dexterity modifier plus your proficiency bonus. And then you can stack that with power shield, which is you create a defensive field of power that can be wielded as a shield that you are proficient with. You are proficient with this thing when you summon it. The shield hovers in your space to protect you, leaving your hands free. And the bonus to your armor class gained from the shield is equal to your proficiency bonus. So at 2nd level, it's a +2 like a shield should be. And then as you continue gaining levels, it eventually becomes a shield that gives you a 6 armor class bonus. And then you have on top of that power armor, which is 11, plus say you get your dexterity mod up to 20, that's a 16. And then your proficiency modifier is 6, that's a 22. Plus the power shield, it takes you to a 28. Armor class 28 is pretty damn good for a character at 18th level. So, but it costs you 2 mana to maintain that. So it cuts down on your flexibility and your options for your class overall, but it also makes armor a non-issue, which is freaking awesome for a rogue or for a monk in particular. Barbarians, honestly, damn, I'm almost... See, like power shield. Oh my god. It's like power shield can be flavored like an ancestral spirit is blocking attacks for you. I think power shield is right pick. Fucking A, dude. Power shield. Fucking A. I am excited about that. Power shield from the Ancestral Guardian. I think, yeah, that flavor is right on mark, man. Fucking, these things are so cool. Hold on, I'm gonna grab a sip. Let's see, second rank. Okay, second rank powers. We took force damage, which jives with 14th level. They do force damage as a reaction attack. Or as a reaction to damage a protected ally. Is there anything sustained? Because we have the sustained strikes, reactions, maneuvers, and exploits. So, second rank right now. Let's go to Deadly Presence. When this power is sustained, you are not restrained, stunned, or paralyzed. Restrained, stunned, paralyzed. Or incapacitated. Any creature you can see that begins its turn or moves within 10 feet of you takes weapon damage equal to your proficiency bonus. Deadly Presence. I think that makes a lot of sense. Equal to your proficiency bonus. At 6th level, it's going to be 3 damage. Equal to your power die. Wait. Takes 1 power die of damage. Let's compare that to Guardian Spirits real quick, just to make sure I'm staying in curve. Because I think I'm staying in curve. Let's look at... that's the name of that spell, right? Hold on. Is that the name of that spell? Let's go fetch. Spirit Guardian, thank you. Let's see what kind of damage Spirit Guardians does compared to what we're proposing here to make sure they're within curve. Because if they're in spec, then we can really tear shit up. Let's see, 3rd rank, okay, or third level spell, which means you get access to it at 5th level as a cleric. Call forth spirits, flit around you. Jesus, okay. Yeah, this is going to be within spec. 3d8 radiant damage at 3rd level. When you cast a 4th level or higher, increased by d8 per spell level slot above 3rd. So 5th level, you add 1. So 3 for 5th level spell slot is 5d8. Yeah, that works. Let's see. While this power is sustained, you are not restrained, stunned, paralyzed, or incapacitated. Any creature you can see that begins its turn or moves within 10 feet of you takes 1 power die of damage per mana sustained, period. So that means at second rank, when you get this, it'd be 2d. If you have to put a minimum of 2 points into it. If I was 18th level and I use this at its minimum, it would be 2d10 damage. If I was 9th level, it'd be 2d8 damage. At 9th level, I have a max tap of 3. So if I put 3 mana into it, it'd be 3d8 damage. At 18th level, I have up to 5 and a d10. I could tap all 5 mana and do 5d10. I could choose to lock this power, and it stays on me permanently until I go to sleep, or it's dispelled, or I choose to dismiss it. Always doing 5d10 damage to anything that I deem hostile within 10 feet of me. But I wouldn't be able to use anything else if I don't lock it. Well, if I'm raging as a barbarian, I have to lock it. So you have to keep that in mind, because I can't maintain concentration as a barbarian. So anything that requires concentration either gets dismissed, like a spell, because I can't maintain concentration on spells. But powers, they don't have to be dismissed. They can be locked instead. It removes my need to maintain concentration on them, but it also reduces the amount of mana I can use by the number of mana locked. So at 17th level, if I lock all 5 of my mana, I may as well not have a mana pool at that point. I've chosen to do this 1 or 5 things because you can stack them. I can stack 5 first rank sustained powers, lock all of them for 5 mana, or I could lock a second and a third ranked power together for 5 mana. But if I lock all those, I effectively don't have a mana pool anymore because I can't use any of my mana until I unlock some of my channels so I can flow mana through them. You see how that narrative works? I'm pretty proud of that. But yeah, I am not upset about this at all. I think Deadly Presence, I think that's a freaking great idea. So where are we on the block? Here we are. Deadly Presence, sus. That's actually pretty freaking sick. But it's not out. It doesn't outbalance what the cleric could do. The cleric could cast it as a 8th level spell at 17th level, and do 8d8 damage per round for what, 10 minutes? Something ridiculous like that. It's pretty comparable. So, like I said, marshals. If you want to make marshals be able to compete with casters, they need to do more damage. So now we're at 3rd level. We have the force damage and we have Deadly Presence. And whenever it says weapon damage, the system defaults that if you've learned a damage type, you can always use that damage type instead of your weapon damage. So by 5th level, Barbarian could always be dealing force damage, for instance. It cost him a power to learn it, but in this one, it didn't cost him anything because it came free, which is... we don't know what Wizards is going to do with resistances and immunities in the game. I'm thinking they're going to maybe make changes when they get around to the DMG, but if they don't, this will be a great improvement of quality of life for these characters. Let's see. 9th level, 3rd rank. I always start with sustained powers first because they have the most value. And then I move up the line to strikes, reactions, maneuvers, and exploits. So far, sustained powers are serving us well. Oh god, giant growth is so fucking cool. But I don't think it's a match for where we're at. Boy, Ghostwalker is kind of tempting. As a bonus action, including the round, this power, if channeled using a bonus action, you become incorporeal. Any round you end within an object, you gain 1 level of exhaustion, and you're ejected from that space, returning to the last position you occupied in the nearest location to that space. That's really straightforward. Ancestral Guardians, though. I don't... That's a maybe. We'll pencil it in for now. Let's look at Daunting Presence. While sustaining this power, attack rolls against you are made with disadvantage, and when you are the only target of an effect that requires you to make a saving throw, you roll with advantage. That's pretty fucking good too. Maybe Daunting Presence. That kind of jives with the Guardians, the Ancestors. I do have a question, if it won't take very long. What are the classes that are going to use this system? Haha, that's a great question, and it doesn't take any time out of mine. This is going to be used for barbarians, fighters, monks, paladins, rangers, and rogues. Also, artificers can learn powers through infusions. Like if I wanted to have Daunting Presence, I can make a helm of Daunting Presence. So I would infuse Daunting Presence into the helm, and then when I wear the helm, it has that Daunting Presence effect while I sustain the mana. Warlocks can also learn powers as invocations. So if you want to kit away from the spellcasting side of Warlocks into the martial side of it, like Pact of the Blade, like you have to have Pact of the Blade if you want to learn any strikes. Great question. We've already done this process for all the monks, all the paladin, all the ranger subclasses. That was like episode, I want to say episode 20 through 32, something like that, in the playlist, the Martial Powers playlist on my channels. Yep. So we've done this we haven't done this subclass option. Like paladins and rangers, they have a spellcasting list that they get whenever you learn a subclass. But you can, instead of learning a spell, you could choose to learn a power instead. That's how those works. And monks don't have any learned spells, so we're gonna build subclass lists for the monks as well. Yeah, you're seeing it. It's pretty sick. Clerics, like if you were like a 10th level cleric, 10th level paladin, as a spellcaster, you'd have 15th level spellcasting, because paladin takes half, right? And then cleric takes all. So you'd have 15. You'd be 15th level spellcasting as a paladin cleric. But as a martial caster, as a martial channeler, you would only be 10th level, and none of the cleric levels would apply to it. However, the mana that you get from the spellcaster would be able to apply. However, since you only have 10 levels of channeling, you would only be able to learn up to 3rd rank powers, and you would be limited to only 3 mana at a time while channeling, because your paladin was only 10th level. So the two things kind of benefit each other, but spellcasting doesn't really benefit from martial channeling at all, except that they can pick up like a really low cost thing, like a sorcerer barbarian, like barbarian 5, sorcerer 15, would do really well, because sorcerers are just mana machines, and you'd be able to use a crap load of low power sorcery effects along with like flashbang sorcery, sculpted spells, and stuff like that. That would actually be a really fun combo. But yeah, all these martial powers are designed to cater specifically to weapon wielders. Toys that the wizard and the cleric just don't get. Although once this is published, we will do a primal power expansion, giving druids options for, while they're wild shaping, they could spend mana to enhance or change their wild shaping. And then we would also provide rangers and barbarians wild shaping class options as well. So we could build like a I call them tear outs. It'd be like a 15-20 page tear out with additional subclass powers that you'd be able to fold into shape changing. So that'll be like 2026 or something stupid like that, depending on what my production pipeline is. Everything I do has like a horrible pipeline because there's only one of me. I have a full-time job already, so I do this shit part-time. Yeah, but Daunting Presence, I'm thinking Daunting Presence is a good one. So we'll go with Daunting Presence. If you check my Patreon link, I believe I have a Patreon link down below. I think I mentioned this earlier. Not more about me. Oh my god, my Patreon link is not listed in here. I need to add my Patreon link here so you can get access to this is a read-only document in Google Docs, so you can't copy it, but you can look at it and you can build your own character out of it. So I'll get that loaded into the description. But yeah, this will be on the DMsGuild, and when it publishes on the DMsGuild, like everything else I do on the DMsGuild, it'll be 100% free preview. But we'll also have like mana tokens, as well as like character sheets specifically for using the power mat of the channeling paradigm. So, and hopefully, you know, it's cool enough that you'd be willing to invest in it, that people would be willing to invest in it in general. So let's see, we're at 3rd rank. We already have a sustained power now. Let's go fish. Let's go fish for more powers. Let's see what we can find. Let's go into strikes. Let's see if there's a strike we like. Strikes. Stunning strike, delusional strike, bursting strike. So delusional strike, your weapon can deal psychic damage and adds 1 power die per mana burned. The creature must make a wisdom saving throw or be confused as per the spell description. The character can attempt to end this effect at the end of each of its turns by succeeding a wisdom saving throw. That doesn't feel like Ancestral Spirit so much. A wild magic barbarian might actually make a lot of sense, but not for an Ancestral Spirit. Bursting AoE damage, that doesn't make sense, I think, for Ancestral. Stun strike, yeah, no, not quite, not for those. No, okay, so that's a mismatch. Let's go take a look at reactions. Ooh. Defensive barrier. As a reaction to a source you can see targeting you with an attack, you create a momentary translucent barrier, granting you full cover against the attack, causing the attack to automatically miss unless it ignores cover. The barrier disappears after the attack. That's a reaction, and it costs 3 mana to use it, but it's pretty fucking sick. That honestly might, having an ancestor manifest into a true form to take the hit for the ancestral guardian, like your ancestor is willing to die for you again and then disappears back into the abyss. That's actually pretty cool. Shut up alarm. I will do what I want. I want to finish this out and then I'll go. So defense barrier, that's a good maybe. I'm going to use it on one shot. That, hey, fantastic. Glad to hear it. It's stupid simple. It is stupid simple, but the devil is in the details. Like, you can do a shitload of more smites using universal or just spell points in general, which the Dungeon Master doesn't address. You have to kind of recalibrate your smite damage to go along with that. And then, of course, like refreshing things like the Rangers and Artificers that can refresh abilities. Spell points don't really take that idea into account in the DMG, so we had to spell out language for that. So it's a pretty thorough document. I've been using it for literally 4 years now, and it works great for my... I ran 2 20-level campaigns. I'm in my 18th level campaign right now, but this will be the second level 1 to 20 campaign that I ran using color mana, or in this campaign it says universal spell points, but the last one was color mana. They work great if you like spell points. These spell point systems work incredibly well. So they're certainly no worse than the DMG spell points, but in most ways they're better just because they're simpler, they're easier to grok, and they're more thought out, and they're more balanced, and they also reduce the amount of power that you have overall. So yeah, defense barrier is pretty sick. I'm thinking that's a good one. Yeah, that is a really good one. Let's see if there is... let's see if there's a maneuver that we like better. Fucking Flicker Pounce is so cool. Wave of Terror. Yeah, none of these powers feel right. We could always pick up another feat, though. You can always pick up another feat. You can always pick up more damage. So if we're ever stuck against the wall, it's like, I don't know what to do with this. It's like, you just pick a feat. Let's see, exploits, empowered synergy. When you use a bonus action to channel a maneuver, you can make a weapon attack as part of the bonus action. This attack can be made at the beginning, end, or during the empowered maneuver. There you go. First strike is an initiative bonus. In Hypertunistic, when you make an opportunity attack, you can attack the same creature twice. I don't think any of those specifically work with the Ancestral Guardian motif. So yeah, let's just leave Defense Barrier, make it a reaction, and there you go. Now we're on to 14th, which is going to be 4th rank powers. So let's again kick down to our sustained powers to see if there is a 4th rank sustained power that we think feels particularly Ancestral Guardianish. Indestructible Frenzy, Master of Fate. Frenzy. It costs 4 mana to do this. While sustaining this power, you gain 1 additional attack when you take the attack action, and you gain advantage on all your attack rolls. Not bad. Indestructible. While sustaining this power, you gain resistance to all damage, and attacks can't score critical hits. As a reaction to taking damage, you can dismiss this power and burn 2 mana, ignoring your max channel limit to do so. If you do, until the beginning of your next turn, you are immune to the triggered damage type. That's also turn on Indestructible, jump into lava, burn 2 mana, cast the ability, and for 1 round you can swim through lava without taking any damage. It's okay. Frenzy, obviously for the Frenzy Berserker, that makes perfect sense. I don't think Indestructible is quite the flavor we're looking for, though. So let's go down to strikes to see if there's anything fanciful down here that we like. Banishing Strike, Paralyzing Strike. Honestly, Banishing Strike, when you hit, your ancestral spirits whisk your target away to the realm of spirits to be tormented. That's actually kind of cool. So we'll pencil that in. Banishing Strike. Let's go to reactions to see if there's something cool down there. Rite of Revival. As a reaction to when you drop to 0 hit points but don't die outright, you remain conscious and roll a number of power dice equal to the mana burned. Gain that many hit points instead, up to your maximum hit point total. So for 4 mana as a reaction, if you drop to 0 hit points, you can do this instead and gain back a shitload of hit points and keep fighting. That is such a barbarian power. God, that's actually a really, that's a... like your ancestral spirit steps into your corpse and becomes your character. Oh my god, wouldn't that be cool? Like if you use this, your character is not your character anymore. Your character is now your ancestor who's replaced your now dead soul to have a second chance to live again. Fuck, that's cool, man. Rite of Revival. Holy shit, that's sick. Just fighting for your soul to come back. That is so sick. God, that's fun. And then 17th level, there are no 5th rank powers. It caps at 4. Specifically for 2 reasons. One, so that if you choose to use powers instead of spells, Eldritch Knight and Arcane Trickster don't miss anything. They don't get 4th level until 19th as a character. So this would still allow them to get that top level. But the bigger picture is that if you you can gain your best shit at 13th level. 13th level is very realistic for most D&D WotC campaigns. Like Descent into Avernus goes to 15th level. So for 13th, 14th, and 15th level in Descent into Avernus, you're getting everything that this thing is going to offer to you other than... Well, I mean, if they standardize your top level subclass at 14th level, even that falls into curve with Descent into Avernus. Descent into Avernus is like my default go-to for, is this going to be fun to use for your character? And like, are you missing out? If you can't use this in Descent into Avernus, how much are you missing out? Like, that's kind of like my goalpost on stuff, because I fucking love Descent into Avernus. Everything I have ever built works in Descent into Avernus. God, I love that. I love that as an adventure. It is the best. It's horribly written. It just opens up so much freaking cool design space for you to homebrew with. It is the best homebrew adventure. I should say that. I think it is the best homebrew adventure that Wizards has ever produced. I think it is golden for that. But 17th level, since there are no fifth rank powers, you can just channel up to 5 ranks, which means like a 4th rank and a 1st rank power, for instance. You can sustain both of those, so you won't be missing out after that. But that also kind of makes this power list break down. Conventional wisdom would say go to 17th level and then just let them pick 2. Or we could just stop at 13th level and just cut it off there and not give them anything else. Because like pick 2 is kind of cheap because they're already picking 16, right? So this is just basically get 2 more. So that takes you to 18. I mean, they get 10 total, right? So that takes them from the base 16. All these guys will end up having 26. Which could be, obviously a shitload of feats and different damage types and blah 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 blah. But I don't know. I don't know if that's the best decision or not. I'm not opposed to it. Yeah, let's just leave it like that. We'll just leave it like that until something better comes to mind. We're just gonna leave that as an add-on pick 2. So at 17th level, we have 14 at 17th level, and then we would gain 16. So this would be 17, and this would be 18. So 14. I don't know. Is that cheap? Like, it certainly doesn't have any flavor. And that's my only real complaint about it. We already have the damage thing taken into account. Let's look at feats real quick. We started with feats. Maybe we can end with feats. Let's see if there's anything that we really want. Cannibalizing power. When you roll power dice when channeling a power, you can roll your hit dice instead. Doing so spins the hit dice in addition to the mana cost to channel the power. For example, a 6th level barbarian burning 2 fury points to add 2 power dice to the damage roll while channeling a strike power can choose to spin 2 hit dice, rolling 2d12 instead of 2d6 power dice. That's great. It's also very limited, but it's great. Oh, there's efficient power. Efficient power drops the cost, the mana cost. Like if we took efficient power for like banishing strike, if we chose efficient power for banishing strike, instead of it costing 4 mana and dealing 4d10 damage, it would cost 3 mana doing 3d10 damage. Of course, I could always add on another 2 points if I wanted to bump it up to 5d10 if I chose to, but its minimum threshold would drop by 1, which isn't bad. Maybe we'll just be chintzy and go efficient power, Rite of Revival. So that would drop if Rite of Revival as a reaction from costing 4 mana, it will now cost 3 mana, which is more affordable. Rite of Revival, and then efficient power. Let's go with Daunting Presence. So that drops the cost of Daunting Presence from 3 down to 2 to be able to sustain that disadvantages on attacks against you. If you use Daunting Presence with the ancestral, with the spirit shield, they're at disadvantage to attack anyone other than you. And then when you put Daunting Presence on, they're also at disadvantage to attack you. So that's a fun double decker. I like that. So yeah, dropping that cost, Daunting, that's a really great use for the 17th level to make things that already exist less expensive. So great. That's our power list, and that is officially our Ancestral Guardian rebuild. So we now have one Ancestral Guardian, and we now have one of the 8 barbarian class features completely rebuilt. Now, if you decided to take the actual path of Raging Fury as a barbarian, the unique class, the unique path that we built specifically for channeling, obviously we're going to rebuild this, so channeling is at first level. You automatically get it if you choose to. So these first 3 points here are kind of moot. As is the first part of channeling rage, because when you channel, you automatically have to lock a power if it's going to be a sustained power, because you can't concentrate on it, so it has to lock. But beyond that, at 14th level, you can choose to channel a sustained power as part of the bonus action used to rage. So that's useful. So at third level, if you chose the path of Raging Fury, at third level, you can add your rage bonus to the DC to any power that requires a saving throw, like that banishing saving throw. It would, like, by the time you get it at 17th level, it's like, what, like a +5 rage bonus? So it would be a +5 to your DC. And if you're going to use your Constitution as your channeling class feature, and that's a 20, that's going to be a what is that? A DC 18. So that's that. No, it's your PB bonus plus your con bonus plus 8. So it's 8, 14, 19, and then add on your rage bonus. That takes it to a DC 24 for anything that requires a saving throw against what you're doing as a barbarian while you're raging, which should be like all the fucking time. That is intense. Empowered wounds at 6th level. As a reaction to taking damage on a critical hit while raging, you can recover a number of spent fury points equal to the max rank of power gained as a barbarian. So at 6th level, you can channel 2. Whenever you get hit with a critical hit, you can use your reaction and gain 2 points of mana back. In addition, when you spend hit dice, any number of hit dice to heal damage during a short rest, you can also regain a number of spent fury equal to your the number of dice spent. So that's sick. So at 20th level, if you have 20 hit dice, you can regain all your dice. And the special caveat that we have, primal stamina at 6th level, when you finish a long rest, you regain all of your hit dice, not just half of them. So the using this system with that mechanic, the barbarian has as much mana per day as a ranger does, because a ranger or barbarian, a ranger, paladin, monk, they have 40 mana, while a barbarian only has 20. But if you're burning your hit dice to heal yourself, you could also get up to 20 mana or fury back, which gives you just as much mana as the paladin and a ranger. It puts you on even par with them. So everything that we have here works as well as it does for a paladin using smites and shit. So that's that. And then so that's empowered wounds, brutal fury at 10th level. When you score a critical hit, you can choose to forego the additional damage dice granted by brutal critical and instead get a free point of temporary fury that you can use to channel strike powers for free. So you get 1 point for free at 9th level, you get 2 points for free at 13th level, and you get 3 points for free at 17th level. So every time you score a crit, you can, instead of dealing the extra damage dice, you can instead use a strike, which gives you extra damage dice for free anyway. Plus you could like banish something or paralyze them or whatever the hell else is that you're doing. So that does sick shit. And obviously when 5.5 comes out, we may have to recalibrate some of what these things are. Obviously we will, because, you know, they're changing how brutal. Anyway, we'll fix it. But we have the chops to do it, so it won't be a problem. It'll just be a challenge. 14th level, Destructive Purge. When you dismiss any number of locked powers, now granted, sustained powers are automatically locked while you're raging. So when you dismiss them and you open up your channels again, you deal 1 power die of force damage per rank of power dismissed to creatures within 10 feet of you. Dex stay for half, and again, the DC bonus is 8, plus your proficiency bonus, plus your channeling stat, plus your rage bonus, plus the number of ranks that you dismiss. So if you're an 18th level barbarian and you lock 5 ranks of sustained powers specifically just so you can dismiss it, and you can dismiss things as a free action during your turn or as a reaction while it's not your turn, you can basically punch out 5d10 worth of force damage to everything within 10 feet of you with a dexterity saving throw DC of 5, 15, 20, 31, 39. DC 39. Good luck, asshole. Freaking sick. Yeah, so there you go. And then you can take a short rest, get your mana back, and you can do it all again in the next fight. And then the optional cast, we just discussed that. So that's the Ancestral Guardian. When we come back next week, now that we have how the system works in general, when we come back, we'll do Path of the Beast and Path of the Path of the Battle Rager and Path of the Beast. We might be able to get through both of those. So we'll go through all the barbarian levels, and then when we're done with that, we'll do all the fighters, and then when we're done with that, we'll do all the rogues, and when we're done with that, we'll go back to the monk, and we'll build out a power list for each of the monk subclasses, and we'll let Bob be your uncle. So cheers. That's it for today. I gotta go back to my job. I've had a great time. I hope that you guys had fun too. I will be back tomorrow morning in approximately 16 hours to do more Spelljammer Light of Xeraxis NPC token art that will be included with the Spelljammer's Combat and Exploration supplement that we're building that will also be on DMsGuild, which will also be 100% free preview. That has about 70 tokens plus I think 5 maps for use with Light of Xeraxis. It's 75 pages of space combat and exploration mechanics, and a 25-page guide for converting Light of Xeraxis into the combat and the Spelljammer combat and exploration mechanics that we've developed, allowing you to basically use ships as though they were a character, using your actions, bonus actions, reactions, economy as a team to be able to fly ships at the 5-foot scale for boarding, 50-foot scale for dogfights, 500-foot scale for ranged combat, and then at 1 mile and larger scale for just general space exploration and what I guess we could call space crawling. So check that stuff out in the morning. If you're new to the channel, thanks a lot for being here. Like, subscribe, be welcome to check out the playlists that we have. We've got 2 playlists with over 100 episodes on them so far, and this itself has 56 episodes now, and as well as like a lot of mechanical walkthrough and spell point mechanic design. So thanks a lot, guys. You have a great night too. Thanks a lot for being here, man. Cheers.